Hey, this is Victor Estorero from Victory Realty Group.
And I'm Shane Estorero from Victory Realty Group.
We just wanted to put together a little bit of a list of some of the things we like and some of the things we don't like about living in Cambridge. We've been here most of our lives, and we know a lot of people are contemplating making the move up this way. So we hope this helps. Okay, so like we said, some of the things we like and some of the things we dislike. We're going to start with some of the things we're not so fond of. And I'll let Shane talk about that first.
Yeah, so the first one for me is definitely winter weather. I'm not a big fan of the winter. Gets pretty snowy and cold here for can be from anywhere from late October all the way into mid-May sometimes. We're still seeing snow accumulation. Today's April 10th, and I know they're forecasting snow the next couple of days. So that's one of the negative things about living in Cambridge. But if you're coming from up north or out east, it's not anything that you wouldn't be used to. It's a lot more tame here. It's just something to think about if you're coming from somewhere like BC or down south in the States where it's warm all year around. You don't have to worry about things like that.
So one of the things that I'm not very fond of is the parking situation downtown. We have a lot of really cool businesses in the downtown areas. We have three core downtown areas in Cambridge. It's just that I find a lot of people choose to stay away from the downtown areas because parking is such a challenge. If you've lived in Cambridge as long as I have, you've probably gotten back to your vehicle once or twice. And obviously, this is an exaggeration, but you've probably run into a ticket or two over your lifetime. So it's a little bit of a nuisance, and it's hard to support those businesses down there because it's a uh, cool area down there. Lots to see, beautiful architecture and whatnot. But people tend to avoid it because of this. The good news is that with all the new development that we have upcoming, we have quite a few different condo towers that will be built downtown over the next few years. That'll bring a lot more people down there. That'll have their own parking garages in those new developments, so they'll be able to just walk over to those businesses, those restaurants, those pubs, and support them in that way. So I think better days to come as far as that goes.
So if you've been to Cambridge, either you live here or you visited some family, you've probably noticed that it's not the easiest city to get around. We don't have an expressway like some of the other cities around us to get from point A to point B within the city, like Kitchener and Guelph do. Uh, to get around that, there's not much you can do right now, but the good news is it does look like there's going to be a bypass road coming within the next few years that'll take you from point A to point B within the city a little bit quicker.
And one of the things that I've always lived with, I was 5 years old when I came to Cambridge, and I didn't know about the Hespeler Preston Galt thing. I wasn't born here, so I didn't really have to deal with it. But you learn it. It was taught. So the fact that the city's kind of divided, it was an amalgamation of these three smaller entities, and there's a lot of people, the old timers, that's still very resistant to accepting Cambridge as where they live. If you ask people around here, a lot of them will still say, no, I don't live in Cambridge, I live in Preston or Hespeler and so on. So my dream someday is that we can all just, accept Cambridge for what it is. I think on a whole, it's a beautiful city. I think Shane's generation, that a few more years from now, that generation grew up in a different time with social media. So I mean, Shane played hockey with kids from all over Cambridge. It didn't matter if they were in Hester or Preston or Galt. So I think maybe we're a little closer to everybody accepting Cambridge as a single city than we ever have been before.
So in Cambridge, we don't have one major rec facility where you can go to the same location, take one kid to hockey practice while your other kid's at swimming lessons. We've been in talks for a long time to get one central facility to get all those kinds of things done in one place, but it's never really come to fruition like they have in Waterloo with Rim Park and the rec center there. The good news is you're only less than a half hour drive to get to those two locations. So if you're looking for something like that, you still have options.
Cool. So that's enough about the stuff that we're not so fond of, but yeah, now some of the stuff, some of the things that we like in the area. First thing, I love just the nature in our area. Basically, the Grand River, the Speed River cuts through Cambridge. They merge over in Preston. So beautiful river valley with Carolinian forest on both sides. We have beautiful nature trails to enjoy. So if you're into hiking or cycling, there's lots of that. Bird watching. We even have bald eagles around the area in Crookston Park. So beautiful. If you're the outdoorsy type, there's a lot to do in this area for sure.
Cambridge is visually a really beautiful city. If you take a look at a lot of our architecture, it's really unique, kind of a European feel. This picture is a picture of downtown Galt that our photographer took just over the Grand River. You'll see just a lot of beautiful looking buildings, churches, kind of an old school vibe here. And then this picture here, this is the old post office. So it's been many things over the years, been renovated quite a few times, and now it's they found a new use for it. It's the digital library, so you can see kind of a blend of the new construction and still has the old school vibe to it. This shot right here, this is the pedestrian bridge that's going to connect the downtown Galt core, where they're going to be building all new high-rise condominiums, to where the new LRT stop's going to be. Within a few years, there's people will be able to walk from their condos, cross the bridge, straight to the LRT stop that'll connect them within the Tri-Cities.
Yeah, and then the Hamilton Family Theater I'll talk about as well. I mean, it's a beautiful new building. That's actually right across the street from one end of that bridge there. So that's where the Gaslight District development's going to be. Um, it's a nice building, so we can still talk about it as far as the architecture goes. But the theater itself is really cool. I know I've been to quite a few shows there, and they're run by the Drayton Group of Theaters, and that company is top level. I mean, I've seen a lot of shows in Toronto, and I would put their shows up against that level of production any day. So, yeah, really a nice theater. Another thing that we're lucky to have. Oh, and the quality hospital. So for many years, a lot of us complained because we didn't have, um, the level of hospital that a city this size deserves. So, I mean, they did their best. Our medical professionals worked with what they had, but the good news is that we now have a beautiful facility. So they've built this whole new wing on the one end of Cambridge Memorial Hospital, whole new emergency department. So they can provide a lot better level of service to all of the residents. And yeah, it's a cool looking building, but it's just obviously the services that they can now provide too. A lot of new equipment. I went for the opening gala there, and they gave us a tour. So the surgery rooms, I mean, all kinds of stuff in there that we didn't have access to before. So it's a pretty exciting thing. If you can feel comfortable moving to Cambridge, knowing that you'll be well taken care of as far as medical services go.
So the proximity to everything. Cambridge is pretty central in southern Ontario. We're just an hour away from Toronto if you go east, and then if you want to go west, it's an hour away from London. But even shorter drive distance than that, we've got big cities like Kitchener, Hamilton, Waterloo that you can get to within half an hour to 40 minutes, depending on the time of day you leave. We're also really close to the two Great Lakes, Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. So if you want to do something, a lot of nice beaches there as well.
Yeah, nice beaches, the fishing. We've gone fishing on those lakes as well, so that's pretty cool. The other thing is obviously the how close we are to the border too. You can get to New York State in probably about an hour and a half. So we're pretty close to everything. And then the diverse economy. This is one of the things I always like to talk about because I don't know that a lot of people realize this, but um, we have such a diverse and stable economy here. Even when we see some economic downturns, we see some recession across the country. Waterloo region as a whole, not just Cambridge, but this whole area, doesn't seem to suffer as much as other parts of the country. You can see from this slide here, we have quite a range, everything from the automotive industry, with Toyota, Linamar, ATS Automation, to a lot of the tech companies, even BlackBerry, a lot of the newer ones like Communitex and the D2Ls. So, and then obviously the universities, having three major universities in the area, and Conestoga College is one of the largest colleges in the country. I mean, these are all industries that just help us to just keeps our economy running smooth. As a matter of fact, I'd like to talk about the BlackBerry thing because Research in Motion, which it was called before it converted its name or changed its name over to BlackBerry, everybody knows that maybe you're old enough to remember that we all had Blackberries at one time, but now everybody has iPhones. So when that transition happened, that company took a big hit. And that was one of the bigger employers in the region. And yet we didn't even really notice. I mean, it was unfortunate that the company was struggling as much as it did, but we had companies like OpenText on the top right of that slide that just sort of hired the majority of those people that didn't have work at RIM anymore. So yeah, I've noticed. I'm old enough that I've gone through a few recessions, and it's definitely something to be aware of. This area is just pretty solid when we're talking about economically speaking.
So another great thing about living in Cambridge is the affordability of the homes here. So we'll take a look at this graph here, and this shows the average housing prices over the last 5 years. That gray line is Toronto, obviously much higher than the other two. The green line is all of Ortis. So think of Ortis as all of Ontario, or at least most of Ontario. And that orange line at the bottom, that's Cambridge. So as of right now, it's April of 2020, and houses, all dwellings, the average sale price has been $550-ish thousand dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I always like to talk about on this graph is just basically for investors. We work with a lot of investors, but if you look at the Toronto graph, it's like a roller coaster. It's crazy. It's up and down, and it sways like a few 100,000 within a year sometimes. And that's just not for me. I invest in real estate, but I don't want to ride the roller coaster. You look at that orange line at the bottom, and it's just, over the 5 years, it's just a nice steady increase. So that's more for me, and I'm more comfortable investing in a market like that. So, okay. So as far as the presentation goes, that was it. We took some time to put all this together, and it's our isolation video, as you can see. We wish we could actually be out and about and shoot some video in these locations, and we hope to do that in the not too distant future. But for now, we hope that this helps. And as always, you can contact us anytime. VictoryRealtyGroup.ca. You can go on there and contact us that way. That's probably the easiest way. And yeah, let us know. Any questions are welcomed.